Are you new to being a software engineer? Well, you came to the right video because I'm probably just a couple steps ahead of you, and I honestly want to help you out and give you some of the information and tips that I have. So, in these videos that I do, we talk about different things. I'm currently about to start a boot camp for software engineering, and I'm trying to give guys motivation and teach them what I've learned in my stuff. For one, to relearn and reteach myself and reinstill it into myself, and two, motivate some people and just kind of get them, motivated and believing in themselves. Because if you can see somebody else do it, you can believe yourself to do it. So that's what I truly believe, and this is how I'm going about bettering myself. So with that being said, today's video we're going to be talking about creating objects and creating a method. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, if you don't know who I am, my name is Will Swinson, and I like to teach anything dealing with JavaScript at the moment. That's currently what I'm learning, and I am joining a bootcamp called Hack Reactor. I don't know if any of you are aware of it, looking at it, but once I get into it and enrolled into it a little more, I'll tell you guys about that in future videos. But with that being said, I'm currently doing this course on Udemy. It's by Jonas Smedman. I think that's how you say his name, and it's called JavaScript Zero to Expert. And essentially, it's a full course teaching about JavaScript, HTML, all that good stuff, CSS, and I'm currently using that course to help teach myself to prepare me for this boot camp. So he has coding challenges, and so we're going to go over some of these coding challenges. So if you haven't watched the previous videos, this is what we do here. So with that being said, we're going to get it right into the coding challenge. So we would like to read the coding challenge and go step by step on what our tasks are for this particular one. So let's go back to Mark and John comparing their BMI. So if you watched some of the previous videos, we did a BMI calculator that essentially just gives out, it takes in inputs of mass and height and gives out the BMI, because this is right here is the formula for that. So this time let's use objects to implement the calculations. Remember, BMI's formula is equal to mass divided by height times 2, or height times height essentially. And that's what this little double operator is, equals mass. Your task for each of them: create an object with properties for their full name, mass, and height. This is their full names. Okay, so we'd like to just take it line by line or task by task. So that's what we're going to start doing. If you don't know what I'm in right here, this is Replit. Replit is awesome. You can put in some code here. You can put in console.log. Uh, sorry, can't type. Sum. You could do 3 plus 3 or 3 plus 3. And then if you log this, it should give 6. So it's pretty cool too, because you can put expressions on the inside of that. But essentially what this does is allows us to just see our results and debug a lot quicker than if we were using VS Code. If you don't know what VS Code is, watch my fewer videos. You guys need to just start watching all the videos. Don't forget to like and comment. It really helps the algorithm, gets this video boosted, so more people like me and you can see this video and help motivate them, and teach them some stuff to help prepare them for that next boot camp. So with that being said, we have to create two objects called, we can just call it John equals, boom. That's the premise of object. And we're going to create one more for Mark, because we're trying to get the BMIs for both of them. So we're going to put some objects. If you don't know what an object is, it's essentially it's an array, but a lot more organized array. So that way you can put in specific data and put it all together. So that way when you call on John, you can say John dot or John bracket specific thing, and it'll pull it from that object. So that way you don't have to make a bunch of variables. So with that being said, we're going to make Mark equal to, boom. So we have to get some information. So we're going to have to use their full name. So the way you make any type of property within a object, you're just going to put whatever you want the name to be. So full name. You're going to use these colons. Then you're going to add whatever you want the value to be. So whatever their full name is going to be. So this guy's full name is John Smith. And then every time you add another value or another property, you have to put a comma and then go down to the next line. Or you could just keep going, but I like to go down to the next line and make it look neat. So the next information we need is this mass. And as we can see at the bottom of this right here, his mass is 92, and his height is for some reason in kilograms and meters. Jonas, the guy teaching this program, I think is from like the from Europe somewhere or something like that. So 92, we're just gonna, in the back of our minds remember that this is kilograms, but it doesn't really matter. And then height, the value of this is equal to 1.95 if I'm correct. Let's see. Yep, 1.95 and then 92. And then the last thing we're gonna need is now we're just gonna do the same thing but for Mark. So we could just copy this over and just change some stuff. So Mark Miller, and I don't know, I think his was like 78. 78, let me see. Gotta get the data. Ooh, good memory. 78169. So the next thing we're gonna do is add another comma because we're gonna create right here in step 2. Create a calc BMI method on each object to calculate the BMI. The same method on both objects. Store the BMI value to a property and also return it from the method. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So it wants us to create a value or property called calc BMI. And so you're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make it a function. So the way we do this is we're just going to space function, do these little parentheses, and then we're going to do some curly brackets. So within the function, we don't have to put anything. We're just going to come down here, and it wants us, with this function, you should be able to calculate the BMI. So what we do is we're going to do, so he wants us to make, if you look right here, he wants us to make, store the BMI value to a property. So the way you can create a property inside of here is just doing, you could do John.bmi, but the reason we don't do John.bmi is because if, for instance, we misspell this somewhere or something like that, we're going to have an issue. So this function then is not going to work properly because it's John.bmi. You have to be specific. So there's a key holder called this. So you can do this.bmi. And so the .bmi creates a whole brand new, essentially the .bmi is equivalent to full name here, mass. So we're going to equal that to, and we're going to do the same thing, this dot mass divided by this dot height times 2. And we're going to put a little colon. And then he wants us to return, if you remember him saying, return the value or the property, which is this dot BMI. So he said use the same thing for each one of them. So we're going to have to add this comma, space down, boom. So as we can see, they both look the same. And next, let's see what our next task is. Let's see. Create a calc BMI, stores the BMI. Log to the console who has the higher BMI, together with the full name, the respective BMI, and the respective BMI. This is an example of what they want logged. So we could just copy this, paste this right here, and we're just gonna comment this out. So that way we can kind of, I like to paste things in here, comment them out, just so we can understand like what we need to type, so I don't have to keep looking at that code. So we need to be able to log, so we're probably going to have to do an if-else statement. If you don't know what an if-else statement is, check out some of the later videos. So if, and the way we call on these things is we are going to do if, so we're going to do a temperate literal, so we're going to use these tick marks, so that way we can do something like this. If, and then we can use this money sign and these squiggly brackets to essentially, or curly brackets, to call on a variable or a value. So we're going to do his full name. So John dot full name. The reason we put John is because John is the object and dot value is the property that we're trying to get. And so now it's going to give the value of John Smith whenever we, it comes right here. So it's BMI, and then we're going to put in this, and we're going to call in the BMI. So the way we're going to call in the BMI is by using this value right here. Or no, we're going to use this value because that's what it got saved to. So as you can see, it got saved to this because we made a new value. So we can just use this, or we're going to use whichever one. So mark.bmi for Mark, and then john.bmi for John. Where we at? Boom. So curly brackets, john.bmi. And then curly brackets and parentheses because we want that in parentheses, as you can see right here, is higher than Mark dot full name. Same concept, but just with Mark now. And we added extra M that we don't need. And now we're gonna add the little apostrophe. And we're gonna add the same thing. We're gonna put Mark's BMI now, which is mark.bmi, curly bracket, boom. Add a little exclamation point just to keep it even. So this is what we're gonna have written, right? So we're gonna copy this because we made a little bit of error. But if mark.bmi is greater than john.bmi, we're going to console.log, and then we're going to console.log all that stuff. So console.log John's, this should be, boom. Else we're going to look console.log the other way around. So we're going to have to switch these around because now it's Mark that is actually higher. So it would be, so if you do Control D, highlight it, do Control D, it's going to highlight the next thing in the order, and we can just change this to Mark, and then do the same thing here, Control D. If you're on Windows, change this to John. And this looks about right. We can put semicolons there. And we're going to see what it returns. We might get an error, might not. So we got an error. Unexpected token. Okay, you see what I did right there? So because there was no bracket right here, it was like all of this if statement, it was inside of here. So that's the difference between like the global scope and the the internal scope. So if we run it now, it should, boom. So we're getting undefined here. We need to work through this. So that means that John's.bmi is undefined. Okay, if you look right here, what I did was I just added these two functions. So essentially, the way it works here is because this whole line, a couple lines of code, is outside the scope of here, which if you put it in, it might work, not quite sure. But because it's on the outside, it was not is not defined essentially. So it was like you saw, like if we remove them, run, it's undefined because it's not called on. So this value right here, .bmi, equals nothing because it's inside of here. So you have to call on it on the outside so it can get the value. And the reason that john.calc.bmi is equal to and mark.calc.bmi, the function, is equal to .bmi is because whenever you run this function, it returns this .bmi. So you could use john.bmi and it'll give the value. So this .bmi is equal to that value, which this is also which this is also equal to this dot BMI, if that makes sense. So the function's equal to this dot BMI, and this dot BMI has a value of whatever this expression gives us. So if that makes sense, we now run, and so if Mark's BMI is lower than John's, then it'll log John's BMI is higher. But since Mark's BMI is higher, it logs Mark Miller's BMI, and then it gives the BMI is higher than John Smith's, BMI. Well, we should add BMI right there. BMI, BMI. So if that helps out, guys, I hope it does. Hopes you understand how you can kind of create an object here and use it outside of it, and you can call on functions and stuff. So hope that makes a little bit of sense. It definitely is a good way of looking at it. I appreciate you guys for watching. If you want to join a Discord where it's a community filled with people who are all trying to become software engineers and we're all sharing information, some people are further down the line, some people actually are already software engineers. So it's just a big community of all of us to come together to kind of share information and similar interests. So if that sounds intriguing to you, please click the Discord link down below and you could join. It's free, you don't have to pay anything. Yeah. And also, follow me on social media. You got my Instagram down there and my Twitter. Um, just leave a subscribe and like on this too. I'd appreciate it. It really helps with the algorithm and keeps this movement and this process going. And if you're interested in needing a computer build or anything, so that way you can run your codes excellent, or you need anything of the sort, high gaming or performance, let me know. I can definitely make that happen for you. You can click the link down below, fill out that form on my website, and we can make something happen. Also, I do a nonprofit where I give gaming experience to kids. So let me elaborate on that is essentially anybody who donates money or parts or peripherals or anything such as like controllers, keyboards, mice, things like that. I put all those resources together and I go out and I find a kid. I have people email me and like, hey, my kid, we don't have the money. We give my kid something. That would be awesome, for Christmas or just in general. And I go out, we get this kid, and it would give this kid an amazing experience with, a gaming console or a gaming computer, stuff like that. It's just, I feel like when I was a kid, if I didn't have some type of outlet to game with, then that would have made life 10 times harder. And just because you're a kid doesn't mean your life's not hard. School, you got parents, you got all this stuff. It's not like to say that being a kid's not easy sometimes, but it helps. It helped me, so I know it can help somebody else, and that's why I do it. So if that's something you're interested in, click the GoFundMe link down below, or you can email me about some parts or something that you want to send over. Appreciate that, guys. And if you need anything from me, please let me know. I'd be glad to reach out and help you out, answer any questions that you have. Leave them in the comments, email me. Anything, guys, to help you get better and help us all succeed in this world. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video that's waiting on you right here.